All right, everybody, welcome back to the Ones Ready podcast. It's just me, Trent, with ST6, SOT Team 6, SOT Team Daddy. What are you called?
Man, I'm called the Cones champ, the side daddy. Whatever y'all want to call me, that works.
And for people that don't know, which you should know, what is SOT Team 6?
Man, SOT Team 6 is just a meme page for Air Force Special Warfare Pipeline. Uh, Everybody's got their own branch of meme pages out there these days, for whatever in the military that they do. So this is just the little niche meme page for Air Force Special Warfare Pipeline memes.
Yeah, were you the first one to start doing the Air Force side, or was there someone else that came first? Because now we got a few of them out there, right? For Air Force
Well,
Special Warfare.
yeah, like for Air Force Special Warfare specifically, there was like the OGs like Lowercase Dooms and
Right.
like a couple like the Hate page back in the day
Oh
and
yeah, I
a
forgot
couple
about that
other
one.
like niche ones, but there wasn't ever really one specifically for the pipeline. There was like an old Tacky Schoolhouse meme page back in the day when you had like the old school memes with like the big, sans serif white font on the memes and stuff. But that was it, and that went dead a while back. But I think I just started doing it after I washed out of the pipeline the second time, and I borrowed the name from that I heard from my first go at the pipeline, SOT Team 6. It was a thing back in like 2013, so I just took that and ran with it.
Dang, do we know each other?
Do what?
Have we ever met before?
I've seen you in passing as a a young cone, but I don't think you didn't know me.
Yeah, I know. We're not trying to like delve into specifics. This is maybe the first time ever that we're not going to ask for like any of your real background story or any of that other stuff that you don't want to share. And for those of you that are watching on YouTube, like we're not even doing this with two-way video, so we didn't cover this up after the fact. So I'm talking into the void, and some former cone that runs a meme page is talking back to me, and it's a new and a exciting experience for me. So what started it? Like what was the incident? Because there's usually an incident where you're like, man, that's messed up, and you're like, but that would be an awesome meme. Was there like a moment where like you were like, I'm gonna go after these fools?
Man, no, I had already washed out for the second time, and I was just kind of sitting at home one Saturday morning, and I was like, man, that's a funny meme. And I was like, that would be funny if I use that towards something in the pipeline. And so I was like, man, like I said earlier, there's no real dedicated page to like Air Force Special Warfare pipeline stuff. So I was like, I'll just make one and start throwing out memes, and if people like it, cool, and if not, then just like you're talking in the void right now, I'll just be making memes into the void. So, so that's what I started doing. I started getting meme templates and just kind of spinning it towards Air Force Special Warfare. Started started just kind of throwing it into Photoshop and adding, like little pipeline type stuff, like throwing rucks on dudes on memes and stuff like that, just to kind of spin it that way. And I just started going from there, and people started liking it and noticing it, and it kind of took off from there.
Yeah. What? So you're totally disassociated with Air Force Special Warfare now. Apparently, I don't know. I'm assuming you're somebody somewhere else. Like, how do you stay up to date on the information and what's going on in like those dorms that are chaos down there at Chapman?
Yeah, I'm completely disassociated with it right now. And to be honest, the only way I stay up to date is the DMs, man. It's all through the DMs, the cones and trainees and SOTs that hit me up in the DMs, and you know, I love it. I love to see it. They'll inbox me memes. They'll give me the deets on what's going on, like this most recent Great Cone Massacre last week.
I heard.
uh,
Yeah.
Stay hydrated, dudes. But yeah, that's the main way I get my information. It's the Great Cone News Network, so sometimes you gotta take it with a grain of salt, and you might throw something out there and it's not exactly accurate.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean that's everything. That's the good thing about meme pages though, is you can be a little hyperbolic. Like I think that's one of the reasons that the Ones Ready guys love the meme pages so much. Is we kind of tie ourselves down to trying to be accurate, And we're trying to do spread the word and be the positivity guys. But it's nice to see the meme pages sometimes because you guys can just kind of go a little wild, and it's a lot more fun sometimes than listening to a One's Ready episode where we're like, whoa, what you need to do to prepare for the pipeline. You guys are like, F this noise, like this is why it's funny.
Yeah, agreed. Like there's no, I guess, face associated with the meme page, so like it's just the meme page, and so sometimes you can kind of get into that gray area. So it's
There
yeah, I like that's the upside of it.
isn't there a face associated with the meme page?
The doomer face.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I think that kind of captures the spirit of the cone and the sod alike.
Dude, what is it about being a cone and a SOT that makes that face appropriate?
It's probably just the fact that you're getting crushed every day.
No, I mean, like, we had another guy on here who didn't make it, and we got a real hard time because he put his face and his name out there, and he's a crazy person, and the TACP Cadre were like, that guy made our lives hard, and we're like, yeah, obviously we met him, but like it's a different culture down there, and like I think people just don't understand exactly what it's like when you say like words like it. You're getting crushed every day. It's like, yeah, that's funny, but like, what does that mean all the time? And when you become a SOT, if you were a SOT twice, you probably had two very different experiences depending on who the MTLs are and how long it takes to get you out of there, and some of the crazy stuff that goes on in those dorms, especially while most of the folks are out there training. You know what I mean? Like, what was all that like?
Yeah, man. I mean, like, so you're Air Force, but you're also in the Special Warfare pipeline at the same time. So you kind of get to see both sides of that coin, right? So you're on Lackland, you might be running around base, for PT one day, and you just see, some kids over on the main side throwing a frisbee for PT, and you're running around with a ruck on your back or carrying the heat mid gear, and it's like your third time on the heat mid gear that day, and because someone's scurving, so like you just do that every day, and it just adds up, and then you're looking around at what's going on around you, and you see like, oh, these dudes are playing football for PT and all that, but so that's, I mean, that's kind of like what happens whenever you're in the special warfare pipeline, and then it's normal for dudes to get jaded whenever they get sodded because like they invested a lot of time, a lot of effort into it, and
Yeah.
they everybody goes in with the thought that they're gonna make it, but then obviously that comes to a halt whenever you get sodded. So you kind of it's just kind of on top of like the being crushed physically, you also get kind of crushed like mentally, spiritually, So that's
Oh.
kind of that feeling that kind of lingers there. Like you'll get to Chapman like your first time, and you'll look around, you see like the studs that are on team and all that, but then you also see the dudes that are sodded or like hurt physically, like on crutches and stuff, and it's just kind of like it's about to get real.
Yeah, it's just like a collection of humanity, like all the SOTs and injured guys, and they just like huddle together kind of, and they just look sad and depressed all the time. And you see them in the dorms or doing CQ or whatever it is, and you can just tell that they're miserable. It looks awful.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was a CQ SOT for my first stint over there, so yeah, I know exactly how that is. So yeah, that's just kind of, I don't know. That's when it just felt like a perfect fit. Whenever I started the meme page, I was like, yeah, that doomer face would be perfect for to describe the life of a cone visually.
I love the doomer with like the cigarette hanging out of his mouth, just like, ugh. Like I don't know, it
Yeah,
gets me. Like
yeah,
like if you've been there, you've seen it. You know what I mean? It's not. If you can't do anything else about it, you got to make fun of it, right? Which I think is another reason why I like your page. It's like, yeah, I've talked to these, folks as they quit the pipeline and bad things happen to them, and you have to do your exit interviews and all that stuff. And I mean, I don't know if there's a better way to say it. Like, it's heartbreaking sometimes. Like as cadre mode, right? Like I got to be like pretty one way,
yeah. Of
but
course.
like you're talking to these kids, and we've talked about it before, and when people start like crying, and that like this was their dream and they spent so much time doing it, and it's hard to deal with, and then you'll go over to the dorms and start talking to everybody, and it's just like, man, this is a depressing place. You guys have to like meet up like twice a day in the day room or the big meeting room to just talk about nothing. And it's like, what are you doing here? Why is this taking so long for you guys to get retrained into something else in the Air Force? and it's, it depends a lot on who's on Chapman at the time as like MTLs and staff and all that other stuff, and it's an interesting experience, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Like in my both of my times over at Chap, I'm gonna date myself by saying this. The first time was Medina. The second time it was Chap.
Yeah.
But but yeah, sometimes the MTLs can really make a difference over there. You know, like if they really put in that effort. Like I had a couple good MTLs, and I think we've talked about this in the past briefly over DMs. But
Hmm.
like the MTLs can really make a difference in these dudes' lives. Like if they try, versus like I also had MTLs over there that like literally like when I came back my second time, I showed up and like no one was really tracking me. They're just like, yeah, dude, just go pick out a room and show up to Swamp tomorrow or whatever. And I was like, all right.
You're
But
like,
like
we don't know.
that's my example though. Is like, you know, as an MTL, you can. I'm sure they have a big workload, but they can, you know, take that little bit of extra effort as an NCO and kind of invest it into the airmen or whoever's coming through there.
Well, there's so many traps that MTLs fall into, right? Like there's the MTLs that think that they're cadre. There's the MTLs that just really don't care and they don't learn how anything works. Like they're like, I went through MTL school, so I know how things work. And it's like, dog, this is this is so much different over here. And and they're in charge of like all the downtime. Like
Right.
I only have to deal with cones for however many a day, hours out of the day that we're crushing their souls, yelling at them, doing some admin stuff, and then we're like, go back to the dorms, and I'm done. Like I go back to my office and clean up, and you guys go back. And if I can't imagine, like, if you're done for the day, in quotes, and you go back and there's another chucklehead over there that's never done any of this stuff, but thinks that he's also cadre and like is upset about something stupid, like, man, that can like legit affect your chances of making it through the pipeline.
Agreed. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, maybe we don't say anything bad about the MTLs. Can you explain heat mitt gear? Because I know, so I did a reel yesterday, and I wasn't even tracking yet about how like San Antonio is way hotter than San Diego, and the fellows out in San Diego are all soft because they complain about how hard it is, but it's like, bro, it's like 70 degrees every day, like max.
Man, I think you hit it on the head with uh your reel about the just the difference in temperature. I mean, you got to like the east or I'm sorry, west coast, like the weather over there is so much nicer. Like yeah, the water's cold, but the weather's so much nicer. Like you said, as soon as you go outside in the morning, it's like 90 degrees with humidity, and it's like the sun isn't even up yet, man. And
Yeah.
like a way to, you know, kind of, I guess, circumvent that or to be prepared for worst case scenario is this heavy, you know, Yeti full of ice that you got to fill up every morning and put towels in and other like stuff for like heat related injuries. And that's the team's responsibility to carry around. The issue with that is that not everyone likes to pull their own weight. And, you know, we have every team's got a team scurve that will scurve out of carrying that heat mitt gear. So when you're transporting that from event to event, and like you're tired because you just got smoked, but then you're carrying a heat mitt gear to the next event, and you need to perform at this next event, and you see the same dude on like the snack crate for the third time that day, like
Wait,
that's
what?
you know.
What is the snack crate? That's new since I was there.
Man, so there was a like a crate that we would carry that had like, you know, just snacks to kind of eat between events to give
Yeah.
you energy and like carb up, but it's known for being a lot lighter than like the heat mitt gear because
Oh
the heat
yeah.
mitt's like freaking stupid heavy, but it's like you could put like two dead bodies in there and carry that around. But
Well, it's not just ice, right? Don't you put water in there as well?
yep.
Because in the event that someone does start to heat cat, like we're like putting like the top half of their body in that thing. Like I think for students, like if you're starting to get hot, you can put your hands and your face in there or whatever, right? If there's a grueling event. But if someone actually goes down, like we're trying to get them as much in there as possible, and then get them to the bigger cold tub that we can fill with ice. And
Yep.
because hypothermia is a lot easier to come back from than frying your brain in the 120-degree heat in San Antonio that you're out there rucking in.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just known for being so heavy because it's full of ice and water and towels and stuff. So it's just a pain to carry, but it's a necessity carry, like you said, because when you hit like a heat related injury, they need to throw you in there real quick to cool you off. So yeah, that's the main thing with the heat gear.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember when the heat mitigation kits came online, and they went and gave us the training for it and everything. It's like, bro, we got to take this everywhere. They're like everywhere. It's like, I mean, I don't have to carry it, so that's cool. But uh, where do you have any idea where the word scurve came from? Because I don't. And
No,
as you've gone out into the Air Force, have you ever heard anybody else using it the way that we use it?
no, absolutely not. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who the OG was. Maybe some, Vietnam era CCT dude was just like said it one day, but like it's such a good word to define somebody like, that scurves out of details or, you know, doesn't pull their weight. It makes sense.
Yeah. What are all the best ways to scurve? Like, there's good scurve, right, and there's bad scurve.
Oh
I think I
yeah.
saw a video the other day of like some like army basic training, and everybody was like in the front leaning rest, and some kid was hiding behind a pole, and I was like, yes, like that's perfect.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. There's like a smart way to scurve, and then there's like the terrible like team scurve, right? So like if you're scurving to like help your team out or like just make it through your event, that's one thing. But whenever you're scurving costs the team or you're putting undue stress on the team, like that's like a bad scurve. So like an example, trying to think off the top of my head, um, like if everybody's in the front leaning rest and you're waiting to be recovered and the team scurve is like sagging his back or whatever, he's costing the team because everyone's got to stay in that front leaning rest or they're being selfish, right? So that's like a bad scurve. And then a good scurve would be like somebody that finds a way to help the team out by making the workload a little bit easier, right? And who knows what ingenious ways Cones will come up with to figure that out. But that's like a difference. Like there's surviving as a
yeah.
team, and then there's like being it's the team scurve that's costing the team.
Yeah, at some point everyone will survive, right? Like you have there's always an event where it's just like, man, we just got to make it to the end. And like at a certain point, like guys just like falling down and all over themselves and getting yelled at. It's like it just all becomes one thing, and you're just like, it doesn't matter. Like they can't keep us here forever. We just need to get to the end of this, and you just kind of like just accept the fact that you're getting smoked until 4:30 in the afternoon, and the cadre get tired of yelling at you, and they're gonna go home.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, I just I love all the cone culture stuff. It's a weird thing like not being down there anymore and not being around it is all the ways that the cones get there. And like you'll see the good officers and the good NCOs, like the good retrainees come through, and they kind of help their team, scurve in the right ways. Like the hey sergeant, that's not what you said, or that's not what we're doing, and I don't remember you telling us that, or all these other things. And it's like, or you tell them to run down 2 miles down the road and come back. They might only run a mile down the road and come back. Like just little
Right,
things that
exactly.
they can do and take the heat for if they get caught. That just helps the team out.
Yeah, like sometimes the instructors will be like, "Hey, y'all," they'll like collect a rifle or something that someone left out of reach, and you got to earn it back, and they'll throw out like exercises that you need to do to earn that rifle back, and a good scurve will find the right exercise, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know, like something easy, and then the team scurve might throw something out. Like I think I had one dude once say, this might narrow it down a little bit for me, but they wanted to earn back a rifle by doing log rolls, and we were like, oh, that's a terrible idea.
Oh
That's
no. Oh no. I mean, that was my thing when I was at prep was doing log rolls with the students when I was like the op soup. Um, yeah, it's a low injury exercise that is absolutely miserable, especially right after lunch in the heat out on the
yeah.
field. Like it's like intro to rolling through puke, and I can go out there. Like it was always, like did you went through prep, right?
No, I didn't. I was prior service when I went back when prep was a thing, and they
Oh,
hadn't started making prior service students go through prep yet. But I saw the dudes come off the bus from prep, and it was an interesting spectacle to see.
It was a weird dynamic, but I mean, I'm sure you've seen like the same process though. Like around week 5, so prep was like 8 weeks long. Like around week 5 or 6, like the students would get loose. You know, like in the beginning, like they're everything's chaos and they want to do a good job and they're trying to listen and they're trying to learn what they're supposed to do. And then by like week 3, they learn what they're supposed to do. But 2 weeks after that, once it's like just the grind and the routine, cones. Like all of a sudden, people are leaving water bottles all over the place. People are not listening to the coaches. Missing items at training events, and I would like just keep a tally mark up in my office. And like once it reached a certain point and a certain time during the course, like I would just be like, okay, I'm going to spend 40 minutes with these dudes out on the field after lunch, and tell all the coaches they adjust their plans and just go out there and go crazy. But like the first time you watch someone roll through their own puke and somebody else's puke doing log rolls, it's like that you see the wheels turning in their head. They're like, is this life? And you're like, this is your life now. Yes.
Yeah.
So uh
Insert doomer face.
right, yeah. So I wanted to ask you about something. Oh, the relationship between Cadre and Cones, right? And first of all, I'm not sure we actually know where Cone came from. There is a rumor that Cone came from the Saturday Night Live skit with like Dan Aykroyd,
Okay.
where back in the day at Indoc, one of those guys like watched that skit or that movie, and he came into work, and all these students are running around with shaved heads, and he was like, "Yo, they're like cone heads," and he probably said it like 6 times, and they're like, "We're cones now,"
It's stuck.
and that's what it is. But the relationship between Cadre and students, like it's funny because we'll talk about things sometimes, and it just sounds like we're always just smoking the dog crap out of students, which we do on a regular basis. But there's also like a lot of that weird in between time where there's like banter going back and forth and bets happening and all these other things. Can you explain kind of how that feels from the cone side?
Yeah. So like you'll get absolutely destroyed usually like, in the morning or whatever, and then you'll make it to like, your course or your class or whatever. And it'll, like you said, it'll be kind of this weird like downtime where you still are on edge, like you want to be ready for anything, but you're kind of in a more relaxed setting, which doesn't make sense, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And so like there's this, I guess, persona that the instructors or cadre will slip into where like you can kind of joke around with them, but they're still letting you know they're in charge, and they'll joke around a little bit with you, but you're still a cone or a trainee or whatever. So it's just interesting because things will unfold within that time frame, right? Like some bets or some inside jokes that will make like everyone knows the cartoon of the day or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Usually can happen in that setting or whatever. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. And then of course, just as quickly as that can happen, you can go from that to getting smoked again. So yeah, it's interesting. Um, Instructors are an interesting group of dudes. They definitely are impressionable on the young cones, and like it's funny. I think of that meme, like the Batman meme, where it's like, do you remember what you did to me? And he's like, I don't even know who you are. Like that's
Right.
pretty much sums up the instructor trainee relationship.
Dude, well, yeah. Well, and you don't mean to. It's like almost an accident. And having gone on two different instructor tours, like the first one, I remember I went back on team, and guys would walk up to me and like that's exactly they'd be like, "Hey, man, you remember this time?" And I'm like, I have no idea what we're talking about. Like, do you know how many students I saw? Like it's a grind on that side as well. But like you're having such a huge impact on these folks' lives. Like guys train years and years and years to get into the pipeline, and it's all they ever wanted. And then you're just like this dude who it's just like your third year as cadre, and you're just running the same event that you've run 100 times. And some dude quits, and you're just like, yeah, go away. Like or you just like you say something like that's like the most hurtful thing that they could possibly hear, and you don't even think about it. You're like, yeah, we always knew you were going to quit, so gather up your stuff and go back to the building. Like and you're not trying to be mean, but it's just like it's what you say, and it's like you think about it years later, you're like, man, like that was really cruel. Like just to like just be so nonchalant about like years of this kid's life that just ended, and you're like, yeah, okay, bye. And it's a weird thing.
Yeah, it's just part of being part of the machine, man. I mean, it's just like that in, big Air Force too, but in a different sense. But, you know, It's just it is what it is, and I think that's where a lot of people, especially like cones and sauce, got to learn like not to take things personal and just kind of learn from it and move on and grow from there. So
Well, what about how did you get to know, like, so all the cadre have like different things, right? They have the different little triggers that'll set them off, things that they care about. Like, how long does it take you to figure out like which cadre is cool in certain situations and which one you just never joke with?
uh, uh, it doesn't take long. I mean, you figure that out pretty quick. I mean, usually there's like the enforcer, right? Like the enforcer instructor, and then obviously usually the one that's over the course. He's kind of hangs back. He's not as like in there as the enforcer is, and then you have the other instructors that are here and there in between, kind of. So so I just say maybe honestly you could probably have him pegged in like a week. Who's who's like the top of the food chain and who's going to be the one that you're going to spend the most time with. And then like you said, you'll start to pick up on the things that they like, that they don't like you'll notice like there's not just banter between the students and the instructors, but there'll be banter between the instructors and the instructors, right? And so you might be in the front leaning rest, but you'll hear them kind of going back and forth, and you'll pick up on that. And some brave cone might say something to the instructors, engage a little bit, and kind of understand like the dynamic going on between them and capitalize on that. And I think when I was in TAC P prep, we kind of pegged that out for one of the two of the instructors, and we ended up incorporating that in one of our cartoons for for prep. So yeah, I mean, I would say probably like a week. Usually, you kind of start to figure out what's going on, what the dynamic is.
Did you ever have like a mommy and daddy fighting in front of you situation where like the cadre, like, or you could see what they were actually like starting to get frustrated with each other, but maybe they were just like, we're going to handle this in the office. We're going to go throw hands once we're done
Yeah,
with these cones.
exactly. That's perfect. That's a perfect way of summing it up. Is a mommy daddy type of situation.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in rooms where I think like a chief and a colonel got into a fight, like a wing chief and like a lieutenant colonel in front of like the, wing commander. And I was like a tech sergeant. I'm sitting in there. I'm like, should I leave? Because mom and dad are fighting, and I don't want to witness this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think
Yeah,
cadre are pretty good about not actually doing that in front of students for the most part. Like when you in board as cadre, at least from my first time, one of the things is like rule number one is you do not fight in front of the cones, like for real. You know what I mean? Like if you have disagreements, like there's little banter that goes back and forth, and we make fun of each other. Like it's a long day, for everybody. Um, but if you disagree with like something that another cadre member put out, like you got to go back to the office to figure that out. Like there's little things you can do in front of the cones, but like you can't have the huge disagreements in front of the students.
yeah,
So
that makes sense. I mean, because then at that point, like the students hold the instructors in like this high regard, right? Like they're kind of like your role model of everything you want to be. And so if you see them acting like that, that's going to kind of diminish that character to them. Like that's like it's what would I guess you could say unbecoming of an NCO.
yeah. Well, and then there's times like it's how many times I don't know how many times you saw, but like I was in that environment for a long time, and then you'd walk up to a group of students, and I'd be like, what are you guys doing? Like you are supposed to be doing something else right now, and the cones figure out how to like actually speak like humans after a while. They're like, "Who ya, Sergeant?" Like, but Sergeant so and so told us to be here right now, and I'm like, "He did?" They're like, and like and you look around the group, and they're all like, "Yeah, like Sergeant Smith said that this is what we were supposed to be doing right now." It's like, "Oh, okay." Carry on,
Yeah,
morons. You
exactly.
all suck. Like, and then you just walk away instead of like overriding Sergeant Smith, unless you absolutely have to, or whoever it is. Like, I'm sure you saw that, plenty of times.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like you said later on, like after you kind of get out of that initial like I don't know what you would call it,
The
like
shock and awe.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you kind of start to learn. Oh, I can talk to him as long as I use the right proper customs and courtesies. I can express myself to this instructor.
Yeah. So after your first time, did you go? You went back to you went to the regular Air Force?
Yes, that's correct.
Was that weird? Like, I know we're trying not to like out you. I don't want like to know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
your
yeah.
job is or any of that other stuff. But you said something like, "Hey, like the impersonal nature of you know special warfare cadre, it carries over into the regular Air Force. Like, what's the same and what's different?
I mean, in the regular Air Force, they're not gonna like smoke you, right? Like they can't really do that. Um, but there's still kind of I guess, I guess the best way to explain it is like enlisted categories, right? Let's say like you got your junior enlisted, and then your NCO core or whatever. Like that still carries over to an extent. It's probably I don't think it's as what's the term I'm looking for here? Like
As like tightly regulated or
right,
something?
yeah, yeah. We can go with that.
Something, I know what you're trying to say. I think.
Yeah, but there's still that element within Big Blue, right? So that carries over, but it's not exactly the same. Like you don't have to worry about getting smoked, but then at the same time you kind of miss it. It's like you have Stockholm syndrome or what? Like, um,
This is
and
the
then
part
like
that people are just not going to understand that you're talking
yeah,
about.
but and then you meet like your peers in your new AFSC or whatever, and they're just not exactly. And I think that one guy that y'all had on, he kind of alluded to this too. Like they're not in that same mentality, right? Like you want to go out and work out or whatever and do these crazy events and or swim or whatever, and everyone else just wants to like sit in the dorms and eat Cheetos and play video games and stuff. And it's like you're kind of like an outcast, but you're also not in that like special warfare community anymore, pipeline anymore. So you're kind of just like in between. So you're still wearing your stencil shirt underneath your uniform and stuff, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it's a little odd. It's definitely an adjustment. I think the biggest thing for me was kind of getting over that, like realizing like, okay, well, I didn't make it, and so what can I do from here? I can either like stay depressed and like you know be like be bitter about it, or I can make the most of it, right? And I think something that's good about like a lot of the candidates for special warfare is that they're driven, they're motivated, right? So they can take that and invest that in themselves and try and make the most of their career as long as they have the right mindset. So um
Yeah. Well, memes help you get past that, right? Memes are like the great thing for mental health. I'm not even kidding about it. Like humor helps everything.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, you're like there's a lot of terrible situations you find yourself in the pipeline, but the common like I don't know what you would call it, but something that everybody bonds over is that event, and then when you kind of like solidify that in a meme, makes it even that much better. So
Yep, yep, dude. I was at the lowercase teams block party, and one of my former teammates was there. We were at the 2-3 together, and we weren't like the best of friends or anything. Like he was like a staff, and I was a tech, and we weren't. He wasn't underneath me. Like I wasn't his supervisor. But it's funny because like, what do you think we talked about? Like we talked about the one like training thing that we went to that was miserable. And we still haven't figured out like if they were trying to starve us to death or if it was just like a logistical nightmare. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
like we're still talking about the worst training event that we all went on together, and this has been I don't know 12 years ago or something. So like those are the things that really do bond people together, though. And also while I was there, I had a student walk up to me. I used to say things to Cones, and I'd be like, like I'm not better than you, but like in this hierarchy where we are right now, like you are gonna do what I tell you to do. Otherwise, like I hold all this authority to like do things. So like it's in your best interest to like act this way. I'm like, once you get your beret and you get a rotation in, if you want to come up to me and tell me to go F myself, like you're absolutely. And some dude tapped me on the shoulder at the block party. I turn around, he points his finger right in my face. He's like, "Go F yourself." And I was like, "Oh my god, you remembered that speech?" He's like, "I remembered." Like it was awesome though.
that's
So,
funny.
uh,
Yeah, I don't
sorry.
think you can really do that in Big Blue.
I mean, maybe there's like certain communities and pockets, right? Like I'm sure the maintenance guys cuss like sailors.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I could see that for sure. Maintainers doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about too. Like I remember my first time as cadre, I was having a conversation with this major, and I had a student that I was trying to get out of the old SOT pipeline, and he was like, "So you think he would be a good weather guy?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." Like these guys that especially make it this far in the pipeline, like they're motivated. It's just like he just wasn't the guy that was going to make it through the next phase of training, and he'd made some mistakes. I'm like, if we just cut the cord now, we can save this dude some time, save everybody some energy, and get him into the regular Air Force. And he's like, but you think he'll be good? And I'm like, yeah, he's going to be fantastic. He's just not cut out for this thing. And like he seemed so insulted that I would be like, telling him that this guy's going to be really great at his job, but he's not going to be good at my job. And like they just can't see the difference between that, where it's like I look at all the guys that leave Chapman, and yeah, it's not great for them all the time, but like it's such a good thing for the Air Force to have all these motivated folks when they do it the right way, like you said, right? And go out there and use their mindset, their motivation, and their skill sets to make everything better around them.
Yeah, agreed 100%. Um, I mean, obviously there's kind of like playing into what you're saying. There's needs of the Air Force, right? So like, you know, they're gonna put you kind of where they need you. But I mean, if a dude's already qualified as weather or ATC or something like that, and you want to kind of save them, they've already been in the pipeline for like a year or two. Like you want to save them some more time from going to tech school and just kind of get them to the operational Air Force. I mean, why not? If it just makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that they've proven that they're willing to go above and beyond. Like it's one of those things too, where I think as a cone, sometimes you don't see that the cadre behind the scenes are like they're not psyched about every single person quitting. There's definitely people that quit that were like, oh, thank goodness it finally happened. Like and
Yeah,
there's always that guy that takes forever to quit. Like it's just like, man,
the team
everybody
scurve.
knew from like the 15 minutes in. We all met you, and everybody knows. Your teammates already knew it coming out of BMT or wherever you came from. We already know it that you're not going to make it, and like, good on them for being stubborn. But it takes them so long, and like we lose so many cones, and they get smoked so many times before that one little thorn finally goes away.
Yeah.
So what do you do as teammates for situations like that? Did you encounter any of those situations where it's like you needed to get someone to move along?
Um, kind of. I mean, like like you said, usually those problems will eventually kind of solve themselves. Either through like that person like quitting or maybe they just hit too many like failures or whatever. But obviously, like the team themselves will come together and kind of like discuss this or discuss it amongst themselves and maybe try and address the issue directly with that person. But like you said, sometimes man, they're just like a thorn in the team's side, and it just takes forever for it to happen. But eventually, it will happen because someone of that caliber usually doesn't last very long, or if they do, it's going to come back and get them in the end. So, I mean, do we do it like Full Metal Jacket style and like beat them with a bar of
Yeah.
soap? No, but like there's definitely conversations that are had. Like at first it might be a general conversation like hey, everybody needs to pull their weight, and then might go to more individual like hey dude, you need to like start helping out man because like you're costing us other people
Yep.
energy, time, teammates. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like a limited resource environment, right? Where you only have so much energy for every day, and it doesn't take long to figure out that it's like, man, if we have to do 10% extra every single day, like none of us are going to make it. And what's the cause of this extra 10%? It's like, oh, it's that guy over there or whatever it is. And you're just like, well, we need to get rid of that. Like we can't all keep doing this and carrying more weight than we have to. If we all expect to make it. Like I don't know if it's like a conscious thing that happens or if it's all subconscious where you're just like you make that equation in your head. And you're like we can't do this for 6 more weeks, guys. Like there's just no way.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed 100%. Yeah, there's definitely situations like that.
Yeah. So I did want to go back to one of the things that I like to talk about, and this is obviously I talk about what I want to talk about as the taking things personal. When guys used to get to prep, one of my favorite things to do is just to stand in front of the students and like pick out people that look uncomfortable and to make fun of them to help them get over the stuff that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like they probably thought I was the biggest a-hole in the world, but it's like, man, if you got a funny face Like I'm gonna make fun of it until it doesn't bother you anymore. You know, like and then you'll realize like if you pass all the tests and you're performing, I'm still gonna make fun of your face, but nobody actually cares. But I think a lot of younger folks end up in the pipeline and they just waste a lot of energy caring about crap that doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%. Um, that's probably something that I would say I learned too. Like, no one's safe, right? Like everybody's got a target on their back. You could at any point in time, you could become the instructor's, I guess, verbal punching bag, right? So, um, but there's no use in worrying about that type of stuff. And so something I took away from the pipeline was kind of is control your controllables, right? So if you can't control it, then it doesn't matter. Don't waste time or energy worrying about it. And that's something like I'll pass on to my troops nowadays is like, hey man, like control your controllables, like if you can't control it, then there's no use in worrying about it. So I think in a strange, demented way, yeah, I think your philosophy helps with, helping people overcome those things that don't matter
Yeah.
eventually.
That's maybe a little sick, yeah. But I mean, it's just you hear cone conversations, and then, like I'd have people in my office too that would talk about stupid stuff, and it gets really frustrating. And like this is just me ranting for a second about cones. Is I would have a kid come to my office and he'd be like, "Who you guys are?" And like I'm thinking about quitting, and I'm like, "Why?" Like he's a performer, he's fine, or I don't know who it is, which is like a good sign.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I mean, I just don't feel like I fit in. These other airmen are all like jacked and blah, 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 and all these things. I'm like, yeah, but have you failed anything yet? And they're like, no. I'm like, then why are you quitting? It's like, well, I mean, I'm just not like these guys. I'm like, what are we talking about? Like, you don't know who's going to make it. And you're just going to quit just because some kid up there claims that he can run 50 miles or, like cones talk and it's
Yeah,
all nonsense.
yeah.
And you don't look as good in your t-shirt as him, but you swim faster, like you're better in the water and you haven't failed anything. Like I don't understand that conversation. It gets really frustrating when cones let crap seep into their heads that has nothing to do with the outcome.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but I don't know how to explain it, man. That's just sometimes when you're in the pipeline, you'll like, there's always that what if I don't make it, or what if this, what if that can like kind of cloud your judgment. So it sucks, but that's why I don't know, I think it would be beneficial for cones to spend like 2 months before they go to the pipeline in like a big blue tech school and just kind of see what life is like on the other side before they quit and
Yeah.
then go to the pipeline. So that way they already know, like, hey, if I quit, man, this is what my life's going to be like. I'm going to be, playing frisbee for PT instead of, rocking Sophies and carrying a ruck on my back. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. Um,
Did,
that's like, you kind of just like we said, it goes back to just controlling your controllables, man. Like if you don't look the way someone else does, or if you are a little weaker in a certain event but you're still passing everything, then like don't worry about that type of stuff.
yeah, just yeah, and I think it's hard, and it's hard sometimes for some of these folks to cone out, and or whatever you want to call it. And when we say that, it's just like when you get to the point where you just start performing, like it doesn't matter anymore. And like I think the quicker you can get to that point where you realize that the moments, like when I say go as a cadre member, if you can just click off all the noise in your brain and just do what needs to be done, like it's going to be so much better for you. You know what I mean? And like the end of the day is going to come before you know it. And you're going to be destroyed. But it's like, man, go back to the dorms, get as much food as you can, order 2 pizzas, rack out, wake up, do it again tomorrow. But
Yeah.
it's hard to get into that rhythm, I think, and especially, like I had a huge advantage being in the regular Air Force first before, experiencing any of these types of things. Is it's like, hey man, like I think the regular Air Force has a lot of great things and opportunities, but like you feel like you don't fit over there. You know what I mean? Like I felt like a puzzle piece that didn't fit in. Like it's like, could I do this? Yes. Do I want to do this, and do I necessarily fit in with this? Like there's got to be something else that I can do to find my people.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And so yeah, dude, I think it would be great for them because they all complain about BMT, right? They're all like, yeah,
Yeah.
BMT was awful. I'm like, well, you guys should also go through finance tech school before you come
Yeah.
over here. And like, because they're like, oh, our life is so hard. It's like, yeah, but like it's a different kind of hard. Like go to regular tech school and have to I don't know. It's probably changed a lot since I was there, but it's like march to school every day. Is it difficult? No. Is it miserable and just stupid and annoying the way that you have to, do those things for so long and to be surrounded by all these people like that? That's the kind of hard that I'd rather avoid, you know?
Right, exactly. Yeah, like would you rather be looking like a stud, like I said earlier, running around, with the ruck on your back, looking like Rambo, or would you rather, be like marching to class every day in blues or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, and I think it has to be weird going back to the regular Air Force too, because were you surprised by how far your bar of normal had been set as far as like all the craziness?
Yeah, because like I don't want to say like it's a lower standard, but it's definitely like you're not on edge, or your attention to detail is not as high versus like when you're in the pipeline, right? Like, so you go from like, the instructors could come and like flip my room upside down, and like I could get smoked for that, but then you go to like a regular tech school and it's like, I'll clean my room, but like, I mean, worst case scenario, I just don't make it to phase two or whatever. Like I don't get to wear civvies, even though most of the dudes will probably just wear civvies anyways, even if they're not in phase two.
Yeah, it's
So
weird.
like it's just like it seems like maybe like the stakes aren't as high.
Yeah, it's like because you can do like the diffusion of responsibility, or you can hide in the crowd easier somewhere else. Where like I think in the pipeline, it's real easy to see the outliers. Like in the beginning, like the first couple weeks, maybe before the first group of folks leave the pipeline, it's a little bit easier to hide maybe and get away with some stuff.
Yeah.
But man, after a while, like once you tighten that team up, like if there's a guy that like you make
Yeah.
one mistake, right? And it's silly stuff. Like, but I've screamed at guys for hours about doing 8 count bodybuilders the right way, and I explain it and I show it to them, and I'm like, when you go down into a squat, and I need you to squat all the way down, and it's just like if one dude isn't squatting all the way down, it's super easy to see it. Like we're not
Yeah.
huge teams, and you get a lot of personal attention for not doing exactly what we told you to do, and it's just not that way on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you have to do something pretty horrible to get personal attention on the other side, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, like you like something against UCMJ, you'd have to you'd have to do something like that.
Yeah. What did you have like a favorite cadre member, or like were any of them actually like funny, like
Oh
or
yeah,
did
of
any of
course.
them say stuff to you like in a positive way that sticks with you today?
Yeah, I remember before one of my go no go events, I hadn't been performing the best, and I had an instructor. I won't drop his name or nothing, but had an instructor kind of come up to me face to face right before the go no go event, and he was just like, "Hey, you know you need to put out on this event, right?" And but the way he said it, it wasn't like demeaning. It was more so like you know motivating to me. I felt like I could run through a wall after he said that. So I ended up passing the event after that. But yeah, there was definitely, I mean, so many instructors that were funny, and like at times like they would show a side to them that was more of a mentor than somebody just crushing you. So yeah, you definitely get some of that in the pipeline for sure.
Tone is everything, right? Like, hey, you
Yeah,
need to put out, versus like, hey man, like looks at you like man to man, like you need to put out on this event, right? Like he's saying a lot by saying that, right? He's saying like, hey, I would like to see you here tomorrow. So I'm just letting you know, like I want you to understand that you understand the situation you're in, and also like you got this. Like
yeah,
without
yeah,
actually saying all
exactly.
those things, like, and it's hard to explain in that environment sometimes, where like what facial expression, tone, body language can say a lot, and the exact same words are said.
Yeah, that you hit it on the head right there. That's exactly how I would say it. Like the tone, the man to man, like yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's not coming up to me like cone number 14, you piece of crap. I can't wait to wash you. Like because he could say the exact same words, and you could hear all of those things. Like, oh man, like this dude's ready to get rid of me today. Versus like, hey man, like you seem okay and you put out. So like, I hope that you put it all together today, so we can see you here tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
It's rough. Do you keep in touch with a lot of the folks that you were in the pipeline with?
I do keep in touch with some of the homies that made it through. and then I have. So I'm not the only. I'm the main dude that founded the meme page SOT Team 6, but I got a couple other homies on there that that they'll help like peer review the memes before we throw them out there or like come
Oh,
up with
nice.
ideas and stuff. So we keep in touch, and they're all over the place, doing their thing throughout the operational Air Force. So yeah, we I keep in touch with the guys that made it and some of the homies that didn't make it, and then some of the other SOT Team 6 admins.
Dude, I want a meme of like the sweatshop of all Doomsface dudes that are like making memes for SOT Team 6. Like as it goes down the assembly line, like all these dudes are just in there like making memes.
Like hot off the press, eight dudes heat catted at Lackland. I want 9 memes by the end of the day.
Yeah, right. And then just the call goes downstairs and guys are just like, "Oh my gosh, more memes," like
This is terrible. We I can't be making fun of all these dudes that heat catted, man. This is
dude, what did happen the other day? I mean,
man. That's what I'm saying. So like I kind of just get stuff in the DMs and I piece it together, but from what the CNN's saying, it's just a bunch of dudes like I think some TAC P school dudes and some like I don't know what do they call it anymore, big or blue team or whatever dudes
yeah.
like just got crushed. I don't know if it was the weather or if they were going too crazy, but I think they had like 8 dudes heat cat. It's I don't know.
Well, it's
Maybe
been so last summer in San Antonio was like super hot, right? But it was super hot the whole time. This summer has been super mild. Like there's still green stuff outside, whichever, I don't know if you've been to San Antonio in late summer before, everybody. But usually about mid July, everything is brown and dead. At least last summer, like the hot, dry summers, right? This summer's been really chill, like low 90s. It's been humid, but it's been way better than last summer. Where this week though, one of the reasons the weather was on my mind is I'm a weather nerd. And then also like when you have like this, 2 week span where it's going to be way hotter than it's been all summer long. It's the hottest days of summer right now. So when I did the reel and then you guys started doing the heat cat stuff, and I got some DMs myself from some other people that kind of confirmed that things went a little wild. Uh, it's not that surprising, but like if you don't, I think it's easy as Cadre to not realize, or the medical folks or whoever, like yeah, it's only 10 degrees hotter, but like these guys were already operating at 100%. Like
yeah.
you can't just like ease it back a little bit and keep an eye on things. Like guys are going to start dropping like flies.
Yeah, I'm curious what that looks like from like the instructor perspective, like because as a cone you're just like, oh, I just got to put out even though it's like freaking hot, but from an instructor perspective, I'm curious like do y'all like I'm sure y'all pay attention to that and like take it into account, but
Well, it's obviously something that I care about a lot, right? And the longer you're instructor, the more that you see these patterns emerge in, and understand what needs to happen and why we used to do business the way we do business, right? Like the running down to the creek and putting students in the creek, like that creek is
yeah.
disgusting, right? But and spraying students with hoses, everybody's like, oh, like that's just miserable. You gotta water the cones to
Man,
to
that's the best
grow.
part.
It's like, yeah, but like also it's hot as balls here. It's hard to explain, and I was trying to do that in the reel the other day. It's like the man, like you wake up in San Diego, you walk outside, it's nice, crisp, clean air, in the morning. Like you can take a few breaths and get ready for the day. And here you walk outside, and it's just like you're getting crushed by the weather before you even start talking to the cadre. Like all your stuff gets wet and hot and miserable, and so you have to take a lot of steps to make sure that the students aren't heat catting. And I don't know what happened like over the weekend or the days leading up to all these heat cats, but that's a huge thing as well. Is keeping track of how much it's taking out of the students and how much recovery they're getting, and looking at your students in the eyes during these events, because that's a huge thing. Like once their eyes start to unfocus, and things start to get a little loose. Like if you go like, oh, we're just going to push it a little bit further. Like once you fall behind that line of guys getting towards heat cat, like even if you pull back right before the heat cat, like that train doesn't just stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we've seen it a ton of times where we'll even get back in like inside buildings and air conditioning, and guys get inside the air conditioning and like they're still heating up, and they just start collapsing all over the place. And then you're putting, temperature devices up people's butts. And it's chaos, but there's a lot of things that, if you're not really paying attention to, it all goes wrong real fast, like real quick. So it's probably just somebody that wanted to push it a little bit further or wasn't fully aware of how hot it was going to be, and then it all just goes to shit in a hurry. So yeah, that's from the Cadre side. So I'm sure somebody was getting yelled at, but it's a yeah. Those boys out in San Diego, enjoy your nice weather, Navy guys. Oh, speaking of Navy, you ever see the Navy folks out there working out on Medina? Do they still do that?
Um, I know they have like a canine course back there somewhere. So I've seen like I guess the Navy like I don't know what they call them, Master of Arms or something like their law enforcement
Yeah.
dudes. They'll go through the canine handler course, and every now and then you'll see them at the the Chapman gym. But I never really seen them, I guess, really working out over there.
Well, I've never really seen them like working out for real either. Every once in a while, I'd be pulling into work, and they'd be like on those tennis courts over there by the old combat control building,
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
their morning PT or whatever. And it's just like, man, like you couldn't have picked a worse spot on that you have like the whole base, like the main side Lackland and all that other stuff, and this is where you're going to come in, like in between. Indoc and combat control and the TAC P schoolhouse, and everybody uses all these fields. And it's like, this is where you want to come and do stretches and
right.
pretend that you're working out. Like guys are dying out here, and you guys are like, meh, like let's work out for a few minutes. It was always interesting. What do the guys say that made it? Like how's that relationship? Are they dicks or are they cool?
Nah, I mean, obviously, they're kind of like in their life, and I'm in mine. We're in our own worlds, but every now and then, we'll hit each other up and just check on each other, see how it's going and stuff like that. I mean, uh, like just because I didn't make it in the pipeline and they did, like doesn't I guess negate like the experiences we had together and stuff like that. So we're still homies, but they are moving in their direction with their careers, and I'm moving in mine. But I wouldn't say anybody's a dick necessarily.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm sure you guys are friends. Like if you saw the Ones Ready group chat, it'd be like these guys hate each other. It's like no, we're best of friends, guys. Like that's how it is. I do want to talk real quick before we have to end. Leadership feels certain ways about memes and meme pages. Uh, what would you say to them? Like what is your intent behind?
Oof.
Every once in a while we kind of go after leadership, cadre, and all those other things, and obviously I'm here for it. But what would you say to them about your intent behind the memes and how they should react to them?
Man, so like, leadership from my perspective ideally wants to be, in touch with like the people they're leading, right? Otherwise, like how can you lead somebody if you don't know what's going on with boots on the ground, right? Um and there's issues that, happen that are just going to happen, like the heat caddying or whatever, right? But sometimes there's things that are happening that probably shouldn't be happening, and you're going to know that it's an issue because of the way people react to it, right?
Yep.
And so like for example, people, so like my first go at the pipeline, I quit the first time, and I didn't get any second chances or anything like that. I was instantly, well, not instantly, but I was reclassed.
Yeah.
And I had to move on in my Air Force career, right? But there's been certain circumstances where, because of a political narrative or whatever or agenda, there's certain people that are pushed through the pipeline, right? And I think when you have situations like that where it's not being consistent, I think that's an issue. And when people take like they don't appreciate that, I think leadership needs to listen to that, right? And there's more that goes into that. There's like soft needs and things like that that I'm sure you guys understand at your level. Um, that would say why that's not right. But from like a washout cone perspective, like also, I went through the same thing, but I wasn't given the same chances, which I don't think I should have, and I don't think these other people should have either. I think they should have, if they wanted to go back and try again, go the exact same route that I had to when I went back to try again. So, I think leadership needs to pay attention to stuff like that, right? Like, there's the things that we're going to make memes about that are just part of the pipeline, and then there's things that we're going to make memes about because this is an issue and it, we want to address it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, we always say that. We try to tell people like, hey man, if they're making Uncrusty's memes, like things are good, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
But like that it's such a good temperature gauge of your organization and like how folks feel and like the actual impacts, the real impacts of your decisions. And I think it's so cool because you know for a long time and as a senior NCO or whatever, it's difficult to see exactly what's happening down in the trenches. But that's why the meme pages I think are awesome because you can just look at it and be like, if there's problems that you don't even know about, and it's like, dude, I got to call my instructors. Like, what are you guys doing? And it's like, oh, that's not us. That's the MTLs. It's like, well, go fix it, dude. Because
Yeah,
like people are pretty pissed, and they can explain. There's sometimes there's nuance, and sometimes everybody gets something wrong, but it's nice to know. You know.
yeah, and I mean, I know, some senior NCOs or even like officers like don't care for the meme page, which is to be expected. You can't please everybody, right? But like I think honestly, I mean, use it like you said, use it to your advantage, right? Like if you see there's an issue, like okay, maybe we need to address this, or you could just go on hating the meme page and I guess gain nothing from it. So
Nice. No, I we love the meme page. Obviously, we follow SOT Team 6, and we appreciate your support of what we're doing. It's like when I saw the lowercase teams guys, like it's like if you need both sides, right? Like they're out there like fixing. They're like the mechanics at the car dealership, and we're more like on the sales side. It's not that we're not on
yeah,
the same team. We're just doing different jobs. But both are completely necessary, right? Like if you ask the salesman about the car, like I'm going to focus on the positive things. Like I might know about the negative things, but like if you want some in-depth analysis, like you got to go to the guy that's got his up to his elbows in the engine parts every day, and he'll tell you legit what's going on. And both things are incredibly valuable, especially for the folks looking to get into the pipeline or looking to get into this line of work.
yeah, agreed.
All right. Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on. Like this was awesome. I had a really good time. Obviously, I was Cadre for a long time. I have a lot of like cone love and I love the culture down there. The cone culture, I think, is we need to coin that and make it something. Um,
Yeah.
but I appreciate you sharing your experiences. I know it's not easy or fun to come on here and talk about, and obviously, like your name and face isn't associated with it. But we love the page and appreciate everything you're doing. Where can folks find you on the Instagrams or anywhere else?
I mean, I'm only on Instagram right now, so saw Team 6. And I mean, yeah, that's it. We're just keep pumping out memes there. I appreciate y'all having me on the podcast. It's a interesting dynamic to have a meme page on the podcast. So, uh, appreciate y'all inviting me on.
You guys got merch too, right?
Yeah, we got a little team or saw Team 6 shop on Shopify. So, if you want to go on there, pick some stuff up, that's cool. I'll probably drop some more designs and stuff later on in the future, but it's just there for whatever. If y'all want to grab a scurve patch or a little SOT Team 6 sticker, that's cool.
All right, yeah, get embedded in the culture, y'all. Go get some swag over there at SOT Team 6. And as always, we're over there at onesready.com. Like, subscribe, leave us fun reviews, and check out the meme pages. So for all you out there, appreciate it, train hard, and we'll catch you later.